go quickly and take our issues one after the other. I was tempted to just read a few comments on Twitter, but I'll keep that for a while, skip that for a few seconds, and come to the issues that we have at hand. This is the season to begin to build up to the 2014 FIFA World Cup. And I remember we've said this several times, if we win at the World Cup, it's not going to be what we start to do on the day of the football game. It is whatever we start to do from now that will go a long way in deciding whether we're going to be successful at the World Cup or not. So this is the real time to prepare the Eagles for success at the Mundial. And the stories coming out from the camp of Iran, problems with preparation, with friendly games, look like maybe some kind of cheering news. But let's focus on our own and not worry about what other people are doing. Well, the story on the respected MTN football site today has got to be what you are seeing on your screen. Eagles recall for Lukman Haruna, who plays his football in Dynamo Kiev, and for the man that everybody's been talking about, Ike Uche. Unfortunately, Ike Uche is temporarily out now, down with an injury, but I'm sure that he could be back in time for the friendly against Mexico in March.
I hope so. Haruna played his way into the 2010 World Cup team on the strength of 3 friendlies. You know, he wasn't a Super Eagles player before then. 3 friendlies before the 2010 World Cup, and he was in the squad. You know, a lot of people point to the fact that you're calling players like this because even though we've won the Nations Cup, there's still something missing in that creative department, and that's why you still look at players like Haruna Lukman. And of course, Ike Uche, I mean, like I've always said, apart from Emmanuel Emenike, that's the only goal per game striker that I can think of. And so that explains why both players have been called up. But if there's any question mark or any blip, in my own opinion, issues about attitude for both players, both players a bit temperamental, both players injury plagued. Those are the little question marks. But in terms of what these 2 players can do on the field, no questions. But whether or not those things outside the game may count, you know, a lot of people point to the fact that, you know, it's always hard for Haruna to keep a cool head, which will always count against them, especially at the crucial stage like the World Cup. You don't want to cause problems for your teams, pick red cards and all that. But on the field, both players are players that are good, that are needed in the national team.
Ahead of our friendly against Mexico, I don't know, we've played Mexico a couple of times. We could be seeing these guys, according to the story on MTN Football. We could be seeing Lukman Haruna, we could be seeing Ike Uche. You feel, particularly Lukman Haruna, you feel that's the missing link in the Eagles midfield? You think it's the player that will just be the perfect piece of the puzzle in that midfield department for the Eagles going into a tournament like the World Cup?
I think for Haruna, he has to take advantage of this opportunity. He was after the World Cup that suddenly after the World Cup, after the World Cup fiasco,
like 2010, you mean?
Yeah, 2010. He just fizzled out completely from the scene. We had changes of coaches, like 3 coaches. Nobody had looked in his direction. Suddenly, maybe because of his similarly brilliant performance at Dynamo Kiev, we are looking at trying to open up. What Keshi is trying to do, he's not trying to foreclose the opportunities of these guys. He's trying to open up the space so that some other guys can come. This is the World Cup year, and for every coach, there's a lot of pressure that you have to invite more players. Even though some people want to say, why is he compensating players who won the Nations Cup, even though they are not doing well at their club presently? But you just have to open up the space so that you can see some of these guys who have been clamoring for back into the team. And it's an opportunity for them because some of these friendly games will just be one-up team. Like Yemi mentioned, how the Lukman got into the national team in 2010 just on the strength of 3 friendly games and he got straight to the World Cup. This may be an opportunity for them.
We had a manager who was, I mean, we had a manager who was new,
didn't know the players,
and just wanted to bring in those that he felt could do the job. And Lukman came, a friendly game, scored a goal, and that was it for him.
He grabbed the opportunity, and in this case, I think Keshi already knows the bulk of his players, but they want to see those guys who could just
bring something extra,
give him a reason to pick them. I'm very sure he knows the formation he wants to play. He knows his players, their ability, their strengths, their weaknesses. So who's going to give him that extra? You know, and that's why you have players like this. I know he's not going to go on a wild goose chase. He's probably not going to. These players that he may likely call up, any right-thinking person would definitely want to call those players. You want to see if, like Nadia said, if they can do something better than the guys that won you the Nations Cup. Otherwise, you stick
or
with
those that have been using in qualifying for the World Cup and all of that.
Otherwise, you would have stuck with those that you've been working with. So these guys, an opportunity to show Keshi what they can do. And on the flip side, also an opportunity to make the others step up, because now some of them know. I mean, we saw Rabi Ali at the chan. Some of those guys in the midfield know the competition is stiff.
Yes,
stiff now.
But let's talk about the attack very quickly. Dumnodi, Ike Uche, if he's unable to recover on time for his friendly, is that the end of a place for him in the World Cup? Ike Uche, if this injury keeps him out from the friendly against Mexico in March, which is going to be the last official FIFA window that we're going to have before the World Cup, outside of friendly games that we may play, do you think that will be enough to shut him out of the World Cup?
I think that will
considering his current form.
That will not be enough, especially if he goes back to Villarreal and keeps scoring goals, keeps showing out the kind of performance he had before he got this call up. So that would not, because there's going to be clamour that Ike Uche must be back, must be introduced into this team, because he's been part of this simple, because probably he didn't match, according to Keshi's attitude, running out of the team. He was not part of most of the qualifiers, but this friendly game likely is not likely, because if he goes back to Villarreal and does very well and keep scoring goals, scoring hat-trick, braces, there's no way Keshi will be forced to call him into the final camp, because on the strength of what are you going to call him? On the strength of his performance at Villarreal, you call him back to the national team. So on the strength of his performance at Villarreal, even though it was not part of the friendly game against Mexico, let's go to give him a look in and get him back to the national team.
All right, so let's keep our fingers crossed. The friendly against Mexico comes up in March, and we've played them a couple of times, but I think they're still going to give us a good test ahead of the 2014 FIFA World Cup.